Welcome to TV on TV. I'm State Representative Tommy Vitolo. Today is Tuesday, April 2nd, and you're watching Brookline Interactive Group. Today on TV, we're going to continue our interviewing of candidates, and in fact, we're interviewing candidates for the Board of Commissioners of the Brookline Housing Authority. And Lynne Sweet is our guest today. She's our third of three candidates. As I've said earlier, we're not going to skip the news. We're going to get right to the interview. We want every minute we can with each of these candidates who are all running for an election held on Tuesday, May 7th. Polls are open 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Now that I've gotten all of that on the way, Lynne Sweet, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to speak with you.
So Lynne, some folks know you, some folks don't. We all want to get to know you. So what have you been doing your whole life? What's going on?
Thank you so much. I was fortunate to actually grow up in the Washington Square area of Brookline from ages 4 through my 20s. I went to Michael Driscoll School and was in Acres House at Brookline High School. I then moved to Newton for 35 years and started my professional career in affordable housing development and recently moved back to Brookline about 4 years ago.
And so the commission is where you want to be.
Yes, it is. When I was living in Newton, I served on the Newton Housing Partnership. I served on a not-for-profit board for the second step, which is for survivors of domestic violence. I served 3 terms there, working on a lot of their housing issues. And now that I'm back in Brookline, I'm looking to get involved in housing matters since that's where I've spent my professional career. And the Housing Authority seems like a good fit for my lifetime of experience in affordable housing development and preservation.
So as I've mentioned to viewers of past shows, unlike other townwide positions in Brookline, the Board of Commissioners for the Brookline Housing Authority, they're 5-year seats, not 3-year seats, but 5-year seats. There are 5 commissioners. And you're ready for a 5-year commitment? That seems like that's a big go.
Absolutely. I love what I do. My company is 25 years old and I have no intention of retiring anytime soon. I have lots of energy, lots of ideas, and I look forward to adding my expertise and ideas to what is already a very strong board, as well as very strong leadership at the Brookline Housing Authority.
And so I'm sure, I hope, you've got some ideas on what you want to work on, what you want to accomplish, where you want to put your energy, should you be elected on Tuesday, May 7th. Tell us about some of those things you've been thinking about.
Sure. So first of all, a lot of my career has been in planning as well as production. And so like any new job, and this is the way that I see my role on the Housing Authority, I first need to get to know the authority, kick the tires. I need to meet with staff. I need to meet with the board. I need to do in-depth tours of the properties and meet with residents, look at their financials, learn more about their current development projects. And so I'm looking forward to doing that. With that in mind, I admit I don't know everything today, but I do know that like most housing authorities, their federal housing portfolio has had the benefit of an infusion of cash with regard to both the bricks and mortar and their services. However, their state public housing portfolio, which is mainly their family housing, has not had that benefit. And that is somewhat due to the legislature today. Everyone is waiting for the state bond bill to pass that would put capital needs into those state buildings. However, it doesn't really come with operating subsidy. So I have a lot of ideas about how to bring in other resources to the state public housing, such as, for example, partnering with the second step. They just received $2 million of operating subsidy, perhaps for Residents who are survivors of domestic violence, that is a resource for them. It's not going to cost the Housing Authority anything, but it opens up a door that might not have been previously open. I also have access to pretty much and all new grant programs coming in. Every day I have a clipping service. I participate in community boards, professional meetings, and learn about new programs that are out there. For example, there is a new technology fund that just started, and there's also some new climate funds that are out there. So I'm going to be looking at cobbling together a lot of outside resources, perhaps talking to foundations and philanthropy to try and work on the federal public housing services, since it doesn't look like right now there is a way to beef up services other than looking at those places.
So you talked about access to maybe some grants or some funds that are out there. How much of the role is associated with financing and grant writing and putting together the resources? Is that a significant portion of the job?
Well, it certainly is the basis. This is essentially a corporation. They have 1,000 units, 1,500 vouchers. They have a staff of 50 people. They are in essence running a company, but the basis of that company is based in bricks and mortar. So first and foremost, they want to take care of that bricks and mortar so that people have a healthy and safe home to live in from a real estate perspective. And that's really where state and federal government tend to put their money. They do not put a lot of their money into the services aspect. And as we know, we're dealing with a vulnerable population with complex needs. We're dealing with seniors and veterans, people with mental disabilities, physical disabilities. We're dealing with veterans. So putting a roof over their head isn't enough. However, to get enough, you need to be creative and look at other sources. So a lot of this position, as I see it, is going to be looking at budgets. It's going to be looking at contracts, negotiating those contracts, getting the best terms that you can. And public housing authorities, because they're quasi-governmental agencies, because there is federal resources involved, there are a lot of regulatory hurdles that you have to go through. Plus, there is, when you ever do a capital project, you are also dealing with prevailing wages. So there are costs and burdens put on a housing authority that you might not see in a traditional private real estate development.
So you say a significant portion of the job is managing this. It's not actually a business, but it feels like a business, right? This small real estate empire that is the Brookline Housing Authority, the financial deals, that sort of thing. What other parts of the job are out there? What else does that group of 5 folks do?
I think that they do weigh in on policies. And I believe that the current executive director, Michael Alperin, in his short tenure, mind you, he came in the midst of COVID, has put a lot of policies and procedures in place that I believe should be beneficial to residents. I believe that there is a technology service in place. I don't know if it's similar to like a 311 type of a call service, that if you need help with maintenance, there is a hotline that you call. It all gets computerized. So I think that has helped with his maintenance staff being deployed to where they're needed and when they are needed. The Housing Authority also has a partnership in place. They were one of the first partners to partner with the Brookline school system Steps to Success. That is a program that helps residents, children, get ready for school and for college. The recent infusion of capital from the federal public housing, which is elderly, has resulted in extra funds that are put in with Hebrew Senior Life, I believe, that is providing a lot of services to that federal public housing that didn't exist in the past. In fact, it has helped have staff to do things such as cleaning It's helped bring in people to help with taxes, case management, meals. It's opened up a lot of doors that are available in the federal public housing that are not yet available in the state public housing. So I think that the Housing Authority Board is not just looking at all of the numbers for real estate, they're also looking at what numbers can be taken out of that operating budget and put into services. For example, about $400,000 of their operating budget today goes towards, I think it's called Brookline Connect. It is a counseling service. So they have been able to increase that staff as well due to funds. And I believe some of those funds also come from the town's CDBG funds. So it's a joint effort of balance sheet money coming in from the Housing Authority as well as the town of Brookline.
So I want to ask about upkeep and maintenance and the condition of the buildings. Of course, there are several which have had really deep renovations. Longwood Ave, Pleasant Street, I think it's Marion Street. Yeah, Colonel Floyd, which
Colonel
is
Floyd.
a hole in the ground right now because the entire facility is being rebuilt with more units and so forth. But some of the units are quite old. And as you mentioned, federal support exceeds state support for the units, which is not something that the BHA can change directly. And so are there places where things aren't at the standard that, you know, we really should have them at, or would at least would like them to be? And is that, how does that manifest itself? To the extent you know, because you don't live there.
I was going to say that's a really tough question for me. I will say that the federal public housing had an infusion of what's called RAD, rental assistance demonstration vouchers, that were coupled with low-income housing tax credits. So the RAD vouchers came with operating subsidy, if you will, and the tax credits brought equity in, and that is what allowed both the real estate to be taken care of as well as the services component to be taken care of. The other in our office actually was able to achieve 600 RAD vouchers for a development in Worcester that we're really proud of, the largest allocation of RAD vouchers, I believe, in the country, that also provided that same benefit to the community, along with tax credits that we were able to take care of the bricks and mortar and the services. The issue in Brookline, I believe that I've stated previously, is that the state buildings are reliant on state funding for renovations. The insurance cost alone has gone up 24% in the past year. So you have a situation where your income is stagnant, that is set by the government, and you don't have that capital access yet. Hopefully, the state bond bill will bring some money in. So, as mentioned, it is like a corporation. They have to operate within their budget. So the only thing that we can do as a board is to continue to look for other resources while the state bond bill is making its way through, to advocate. And I believe that, and I participated actually with GBIO, they had a rally a few weeks ago to try and, get recognized by the state. The other organization I sit on, the CHAPA Community Production Preservation Committee, is also pushing really hard. Every single affordable housing organization is pushing hard to get this bond bill passed. There is money in there for the bricks and mortar, but unfortunately not for the services component.
I want to shift gears a little bit because you have experience in other communities. I suspect you have experience with the CPA, the Community Preservation Act. Brookline has adopted it very recently, and in fact, this May is the first conversation town meeting will have about spending the money that it has been collecting. The CPA, of course, for the viewers, is a property tax surcharge. In Brookline, it is 1%. It could be as high as 3%. Brookline has chosen 1%. 10% has to go to affordable housing, 10% has to go to parks and open space, 10% has to go to historic preservation. The remaining 70% could go to any of those categories. Tell us what, maybe what Brookline, sort of opportunities Brookline has going forward with CPA funding. You know, dare us to dream a little bit. What are the kinds of things you could imagine Brookline doing with some of this CPA funding, which, to be clear, Brookline right now has about $12 million in the CPA account. It doesn't have to spend it all every year. It can roll over, but we're
Yeah,
not talking about 50 grand at a time. We're talking as much as millions. What
yeah.
should we be thinking about?
Well, the town has already been thinking about it as I've been sitting in on the housing authority meetings and the housing advisory board meetings. The housing authority has one large project at High Street that is in desperate need of renovation, and the housing advisory board is asking for about half the funds, and they're also asking for the CPA for the other half of funds, totaling about $7 million. That $7 million, which we refer to as a local commitment, is going to do two things. One, it's going to allow this particular development to essentially get out of line to get state funding, meaning it'll put them ahead because they already have a local match. And so getting ahead in line, time is money. It means it could get done faster. The second part of that is that it could leverage those low-income housing tax credits in those bonds. So that money will be multiples of what could be a 60 or $70 million, renovation project. I don't know the exact numbers, but having that money in early, having it in committed, is going to leverage time and dollars. So I think that is a great first step at looking at how to utilize CPA funds to benefit current residents of Brookline.
And so the project at 22 High Street, Walnut Street, to be clear for you viewers at home, would demolish some existing two-story housing where the only access to the second floor is up these outdoor stairs. Doesn't really meet modern standards for access for people with mobility impairments. It's just kind of like not the way we do things anymore. And replace those units with substantially more units on the same site. And of course, there already is subsidized housing there, so it would increase the number of units there. This is sort of behind the fire station on Route 9, Brookline Village. Lynn, it sounds like you're in favor of this sort of thing.
Absolutely. This is exactly what the fund should be used for, to preserve what we have, make it better, and add to it, as with hopefully not causing a lot of disturbance, to the neighborhood. I know that, this site is close to the Brook House, it's close to roadways, but when you do a project like this, I know who's been engaged on this by the Housing Authority, Sharon Lowenthal, she's terrific. They're going to be having conversations with the community. They're going to be putting construction management plans in place. They're going to be, taking their time and making sure that, that they're able to house the existing residents safely while the transition takes place. So this may not seem like a large project, but there are a lot of moving parts in the benefits. Hopefully will outweigh, the little amount of disturbance that might come with it, and the town money to leverage it more funds down the road is just really key.
Now, I know this is a solved problem, but it's not intuitive, I think, for many folks. The folks who live there now, where do they go during construction? What do you do about the people who live in units that are being renovated or rebuilt? You don't just throw them on the street.
No, there will be a very well thought out of relocation plan. This is certainly not the first housing development that has had residents in place. I believe it's possible, oftentimes they start emptying out, other units and moving people into those units as a swing space. They may take some units down at a time and sort of phase things in so that they can, only move a few people at a time. I don't have the exact answer because I don't really know the details of the entire development. It's possible that the housing authority doesn't know all the details today. They've just hired an architect and they've just hired a project manager, but I can assure you that is going to be a very big part of the conversation, is how to deal with relocation during construction.
And recognizing that you and indeed probably the BHA doesn't know the details yet, in your experience from other housing projects that involved relocation, do they just give them the number to U-Haul and say, figure it out? Here's your new apartment?
No, they will have an entire transition team in place that will be working with the residents. Absolutely.
And so that means the residents will get, moving assistance
Yeah.
and help with the utility connection, all of these things.
All of that. It will be I'll just call it wraparound services for moving. They are, as I said, there will be a team in place, there will be a plan in place, and that it will, the people that do these understand, again, that they're dealing with a vulnerable population. It's somebody's home that they're disturbing, and so they will have the policies and procedures in place to make what is most likely going to be a very difficult transition as easy as possible. And hopefully at the end of the day, the results of having the new units that are accessible will be will help.
Now, you
Meet
just
their goals.
mentioned, frankly, caring for the people who live in the housing, not simply building the buildings that meet codes and standards and making sure that the roofs don't leak. And earlier, you had also talked about services and programs. Do you think there are services or partners that maybe the BHA isn't using yet that you're interested in, or give us a little more there? Tell us a little more
Sure,
about
sure.
what kinds of
So
services.
sure, great. So, for example, the Newton Housing Authority has a really robust MBTA program and discount pass program. I think that that's definitely, one of my plans is to talk to other housing authorities and see what they're, what's working really well for them. So that's a program that potentially could be replicated in Brookline. Because if you open up transportation, that's going to help you get to school. It's going to help you get to a place of work. And we all know that the T is it's expensive. It's a big expense. The other initiative that I'm thinking about, and again, I need to learn to see what's in place today, is what I'll refer to as Healthy Humans Initiative. Basically, I think that there probably is more opportunity for amenity space, green space outside the buildings for both passive and active recreation. I think we need to look really closely at our buildings and see what's available for fitness inside the buildings. I also would continue that and start looking at nutrition. Can we teach cooking? Can we teach about nutrition? Can we make it fun? Can we make it fun for the adults and for the children? Because I think it's really empowering when you learn how to cook a healthy meal, or you learn how to potentially even grow your own food. Maybe we create an urban garden where the students, the children can grow their own food. Maybe they grow a pizza garden with basil and tomatoes and things like that. I think that, sort of looking at your own health changes your outlook on your stuff and yourself. And it's really a way of empowering our residents. One of the last initiative I'll talk about, which the Housing Authority has already started, is the Family Self-Sufficiency Program. They have it again in their federal public housing, but not yet in their state public housing. And that's a program, it's typically a 3-year program where the families go through a lot of different classes. The most important thing about that program is that it allows you to actually have a savings account and save money towards purchasing a home. So I think not only do we want to house our residents today, but we want to give them opportunities to move out and be on their own. And that's really the core of the self-sufficiency program. So I think that we will be looking at, there have been a lot of graduates, from the program. I understand that there's been about 56 households that have been enrolled, 14 graduates, 2 have purchased homes. We need to see if we can get, state dollars in for that. If I have it right, I believe right now there's federal. So growing that program would be tremendous. I could definitely see housing trust funds potentially being used for that. I'm not sure if CPA funds can be used for that, but Brookline has some tools, and I think that residents want that. They want that opportunity. They want to learn, and they want to be not dependent on someone else. They want to be self-sufficient, the core of that program.
So we've talked a lot about the housing authority, the commissioners, some things you want to do. But in order to do any of that, you've got to get elected. Of course, the election is Tuesday, May 7th. Tell us about the campaign. How's the campaign going?
It's been amazing to get out into my community and essentially learn my community again. I'm in awe of the new, Driscoll School. I visited my parents' old neighborhood. That was really wonderful. I went to the Woman of the Year event earlier this week and met some amazing women, ran into someone that I went to high school with. So it's a lot of work. It is, I will say it's hard. I applaud the other candidates that are in this race. It's, I have a full-time job with my company of 25 years, LDS Consulting Group. So I am still working and in the middle of writing a grant today. But I really I'm hoping to get my name out, meet more people. We'll be knocking on doors, continuing to attend events. And I'm hopeful that my message of not only do I know how to identify the issues, I also hopefully can solve those issues and bring resources to the board. I hope that message does get out to the citizens of Brookline.
Do you have a website?
I do, www.electlynsweet.org.
And that's Lynnne.
Lynnesweet. Correct. Thank you for clarifying that.
You bet. You bet. Having been in several elections myself, I know it's a lot of hard work, and I know it can be joyful work and it can be stressful work. You feel like you're able to find the balance of doing your job, getting out there, meeting people, figuring out how to get it all done. You feel like you've kind of got your feet under you?
Absolutely. I'm used to balancing things. I worked full time at Mintz-Levin, and I went to school at night to get my MBA at Babson College. So I'm definitely used to burning the candles at both ends and balancing things. I'm really fortunate to have an amazing and supportive husband. I have a great campaign team that I've put together that is also helping me. I wouldn't be running for this office if I didn't think I could make the 5-year commitment and give the time and, my resources to this endeavor.
Well, Lynn, I wish you the best of luck. I want to remind the voters again, I do it a lot. The election is Tuesday, May 7th. The polls are open 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Lynne Sweet, one of 3 candidates for the Brookline Housing Authority Board of Commissioners. Voters get to vote for one of the 3. And, best of luck on the campaign trail. I'm sure I'll see you around town. And folks, thanks for watching TV on TV here on Brookline Interactive Group. We're going to see you again on Thursday with some candidates. And I don't know what we're going to do about that yet. So stay tuned and find out this Thursday at 2:30. Thanks for watching, Lynn. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for this opportunity.
One small step